Acceptance. The case has also highlighted the need for greater support and services for LGBTQ+ individuals, including access to healthcare, education, and employment opportunities. As India continues to evolve and grow, it is essential that the rights and dignity of all citizens are protected and promoted, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Prior to this landmark case, the legal status of LGBTQ+ rights in India was precarious, to say the least. For decades, Section 377 had been used to justify discrimination and persecution against members of the LGBTQ+ community. The law had been enacted by the British colonial authorities in the 19th century and had been retained by the Indian government after independence. It was a relic of a bygone era and had no place in modern India. Despite this, the law had been used to justify a range of human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrests, torture, and forced treatment of LGBTQ+ individuals. The history of LGBTQ+ rights in India is complex and multifaceted, with a range of social, cultural, and legal factors at play. For centuries, India had a rich and diverse tradition of LGBTQ+ culture and expression, with many ancient texts and artworks depicting same-sex love and desire. However, with the advent of British colonial rule, this tradition was suppressed, and a range of laws and regulations were enacted to criminalize same-sex relations. The legacy of this colonial-era legislation continued to shape Indian law and society long after independence, with Section 377 remaining on the statute books until its eventual repeal. The fight for LGBTQ+ rights in India has been a long and difficult one, with many activists and advocates facing persecution, harassment, and violence. Despite these challenges, the community has remained resilient and determined, with a range of organizations and initiatives working to promote human rights and dignity. The case of Navtej Singh Johar was just one part of this broader struggle, and its success has inspired a new generation of activists to take up the cause. As India continues to evolve and grow, it is essential that the rights and dignity of all citizens are protected and promoted, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. In the years leading up to the case, there had been a growing movement to repeal Section 377 and promote LGBTQ+ rights in India. This movement had been driven by a range of activists, advocates, and organizations who had worked tirelessly to raise awareness and promote understanding of LGBTQ+ issues. The movement had also been supported by a range of prominent individuals, including politicians, celebrities, and business leaders who had used their platforms to promote equality and justice. The case of Navtej Singh Johar was a culmination of this movement, and its success has paved the way for greater recognition and acceptance of LGBTQ+ rights in India. The narrative of the case itself is fascinating, with a range of twists and turns that kept the nation on the edge of its seat. The case began in 2016, when Navtej Singh Johar and a group of other petitioners filed a petition in the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of Section 377. The petitioners argued that the law was discriminatory and violated the fundamental rights of LGBTQ+ individuals, including their right to equality, dignity, and freedom of expression. The case was heard by a range of judges who grilled the petitioners and the respondents with tough questions and challenges. As the case progressed, it became clear that the judges were taking a keen interest in the arguments presented by the petitioners. The judges asked a range of questions about the impact of Section 377 on LGBTQ+ individuals, and the petitioners presented a range of evidence and testimonies to support their case. The respondents, on the other hand, argued that Section 377 was necessary to protect public morality and decency, and that its repeal would lead to a range of social and cultural problems. The judges were skeptical of these arguments, and it became clear that they were leaning in favor of the petitioners. The petitioners presented a range of powerful testimonies and stories to support their case, including those of LGBTQ+ individuals who had been persecuted and harassed under Section 377. These stories were heartbreaking and moving, and they highlighted the human cost of the law. The petitioners also presented a range of expert testimonies, including those of psychologists, sociologists, and medical professionals who argued that same-sex relations were a natural and normal part of human sexuality. The respondents, on the other hand, presented a range of arguments and evidence to support their case. including those of conservative groups and individuals who opposed the repeal of Section 377. As the case neared its conclusion, it became clear that the judges were planning to deliver a landmark verdict, that petitioners,